Ladies, let me tell you something right now. A woman who learns the power of detachment, she becomes magnetic. See, fellas may not say it out loud, but we're drawn to that energy. The kind of woman who ain't begging, who ain't chasing, who ain't stressing over whether he calls or texts back, that's a woman who knows her worth. That's the woman every man double takes when she walks away, not because of her looks alone, but because of that calm, confident silence. That silence that says, I don't need you, I wanted you, but I'll be just fine without you. When a woman learns to detach, she becomes a force to be reckoned with. I'm not talking about playing hard to get. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm talking about when a woman genuinely reaches that place where she says to herself, I deserve better than confusion, better than inconsistency, better than being somebody's maybe. That woman doesn't have to yell, doesn't have to chase, doesn't have to plead. Her energy shifts, and when her energy shifts, everything else follows. See, men, we're not always the best with words, but we feel energy. We know when a woman has pulled back. We know when something's changed. And we can sense when we've lost that place in her life that we once had. That's the moment it gets real. Because when you were always available, always checking in, always forgiving, always making excuses for us, we got comfortable. We got lazy. Some of us even took you for granted. But when you detach, not with anger, not with drama, but with calm silence, that hits different. You ever notice how a man who ignored your texts for days suddenly starts calling when you stop texting at all? How he wants to see you right when you stop trying to make time for him? That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when a man realizes the energy has shifted. Because when a woman is always available, always giving, always explaining, it's easy to take her for granted. But when she stops asking questions, stops chasing closure, stops trying to get him to act right, he starts to wonder what happened. And wondering leads to missing leads to pursuing. That's just how it works. You see, a woman who detaches is a woman who has realized her value. And when a woman realizes her value, she becomes attractive on a whole new level. Not because she's playing games, but because she's not willing to play the game anymore. She's not waiting for someone to pick her. She's not holding on to potential. She's not trying to fix anybody. She's choosing herself. And that's what makes her glow different. That's what makes men notice her in a new way, not because she's yelling, but because she's silent. Not because she's proving herself, but because she's done trying. Now, some men, they'll wake up when that energy changes. They'll step up. They'll reflect. They'll realize what they had, but others won't. Some men will watch you walk away and still not get it. And that's okay, because the detachment isn't about them, it's about you. It's about you honoring your peace. It's about you no longer investing in someone who's not invested in you. It's about reclaiming your time, your mind, your spirit. And when you do that, when you really mean it, you'll be amazed at how your entire world shifts. There's something powerful about a woman who doesn't flinch when she's left on red, who doesn't break down when a man pulls away, who doesn't collapse into desperation because someone else doesn't know how to love her right. That woman, she's rare, and that's why she stands out. That's why she's unforgettable, because her strength comes from within. Her confidence doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from knowing she's the prize, whether she's chosen or not. You want to know what makes a man chase? A woman who's not waiting, a woman who's busy living, a woman who says, if you can't see what I bring to the table, that's fine, because I'm not begging anyone to eat with me. That's real confidence. That's real power. And men, real men, are drawn to that because we admire it. We respect it. We might not say it out loud, but deep down we know That woman isn't afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't align with her peace. See, when you detach, it's not about shutting people out. It's about protecting your space. It's about giving yourself permission to stop fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. And what's crazy is the more at peace you become, the more attractive you get. That calm, that stillness, that quiet confidence, it pulls people in. Because in a world full of noise, a woman who doesn't need to scream to be heard, that woman is magnetic. Men notice when you stop caring so much. We feel it. And it forces us to reevaluate. It forces us to consider what we had, what we lost, and what we need to do to get it back if we're smart enough. But whether he comes back or not, that's not the point. The point is you stop giving all your power away. You stop pouring from an empty cup. You stop making yourself small to make him comfortable. So many women give and give and give, hoping one day that man will wake up and choose her. But sometimes the moment he wakes up is the moment you walk away. And that's okay. That's how growth works. You outgrow versions of yourself that's settled. And you start becoming the version of you who doesn't beg for love, who doesn't chase affection, who doesn't try to convince someone to stay. And that version of you, she's unstoppable. That's what men are drawn to. Not perfection, not a woman who needs nothing, but a woman who knows her worth and doesn't compromise it. A woman who's loving but not desperate, who's open but not available to just anyone, who's caring but also careful, and who's not afraid to walk away if something doesn't serve her. That woman changes the game. That woman inspires a man to step up, and if he doesn't, she keeps moving. Because detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. It's saying, I can love you and still choose me. And in the end, that's what makes her unforgettable. That's what makes her the one who got away, not because she vanished, but because she evolved. And then you only instantly forget it, left you and right you. Because now she is moving in. And when she evolves, she doesn't chase, she attracts. And everything she attracts is better, stronger, healthier, because now she knows who she is. Let me tell you something about men that a lot of people don't want to say out loud. We're drawn to what we can't control. We're wired to pursue. We crave challenge. And the moment a woman stops centering her life around us, that's when we start to feel the shift. You want to know what makes a man sit up and notice? It's when a woman detaches, not to hurt him, not to play games, but because she's finally honoring her own peace. That kind of detachment isn't cold, it's powerful. And that power is magnetic. Men notice everything. We may act like we don't, but we feel it when your energy changes. When you used to call or text every morning and now you don't. When you used to ask how we're doing and suddenly you stop. When you used to try to fix things, talk things out, make it work, and now, silence. It's not revenge, it's revelation. That woman has realized that chasing someone who's not meeting her halfway is exhausting, and more importantly, it's unnecessary. The truth is, a lot of men don't truly appreciate a woman until she stops overextending. As long as she's always there, always available, always waiting, we don't feel urgency. We don't feel the need to show up, step up, or level up. But when she detaches, when she backs up without anger or drama, when she just quietly moves her energy inward instead of outward, that's when something clicks. That's when the man has to ask himself, did I just lose something valuable? A woman who detaches becomes a mirror. She reflects the reality back at the man. No more hiding behind her effort. No more coasting off her emotional labor. Now, if he wants to keep her in his life, he's got to meet her there. He's got to actually try. And that scares some men because they're not used to that. They're used to women who stay no matter what. But the detached woman, she's not staying unless it's worth it. And here's what makes her so attractive. She doesn't detach out of bitterness. She detaches out of awareness. She sees what's happening. She sees that her love is being mishandled. And instead of screaming about it, she just exits that emotional roller coaster. She doesn't need to beg, cry, or explain 100 times. She just chooses peace. And in that peace, she regains control, not over him, but over herself. When a man feels a woman pulling away in that kind of quiet, confident way, it throws him off. He might start reaching out again, asking where she went emotionally. He might try to rekindle something he took for granted. But the difference is now she's not entertaining potential. She's looking at patterns. Now she's not hoping he'll be different. She's watching if he actually is. That's the difference between attachment and growth. That's when the power shifts. See, the detached woman still loves, still feels, still cares. She's not heartless. She just realizes that love isn't supposed to be heavy all the time. It's not supposed to feel like a job interview where she's constantly proving her worth. She knows now that the right love won't require her to betray her own peace. And that makes her more desirable than ever because she's not out here trying to convince anyone to choose her. She's already chosen herself. Men respect that. We respect the woman who doesn't chase us down, who doesn't get stuck in situations that don't serve her, who doesn't accept half love or inconsistent affection. Even if we don't say it, even if we don't show it right away, we know the difference between a woman who needs us and a woman who wants us, but won't lose herself over us. And the one who won't lose herself, that's the one who stays in our mind. You might think detaching makes you look cold or distant, but it's not about shutting down. It's about standing up for yourself. And when a woman does that with grace and maturity, it draws in the kind of attention that's different. Now she's not getting crumbs. She's being approached with intention because now any man who comes close knows he can't play with her energy. She's shown what happens when she's not respected. She disappears. That's not to say every man will wake up and do better. Some will fumble you. Some will watch you walk away and not understand what they lost until it's too late. But that's not your problem anymore. That's their lesson to learn. You don't detach to make someone chase you. You detach because you're done chasing clarity from someone who can't give it. You detach because your peace matters more than potential. There's nothing more attractive than a woman who isn't afraid to be alone. A woman who doesn't see singleness as a failure. A woman who's not waiting for a man to complete her because she's already whole. That woman is rare. And that rarity is what makes men gravitate toward her, not because she's playing hard to get, but because she's hard to shake. When a woman detaches, she creates space for healing, for clarity, for something better. And that space becomes sacred. She no longer allows confusion to rent space in her mind. She's no longer chasing answers that don't come. She's sitting in her strength, in her silence, and letting life move around her while she remains still. And somehow in that stillness, she becomes more visible than ever. She becomes the woman everyone notices, but no one can reach unless they come correct. Men are extremely attracted to women who detach, not because it's a tactic, but because it's a transformation. It's the moment she stops trying to prove her value and starts living in it. And when a woman gets there, truly gets there, she doesn't have to chase love. It'll find her in its truest form. And this time, it'll know it has to come right or not come at all. When a woman detaches, something shifts that a lot of men aren't ready for. They don't see it coming because they're so used to the attention, the effort, the constant presence. They're used to the woman always being there, always reaching out, always trying to make things work, even when it's one-sided. And then one day she stops, not because she doesn't care anymore, but because she cares about herself more. And that kind of silence, that kind of withdrawal, is louder than anything she's ever said. Men are drawn to that silence in a way that surprises even them. See, most of us don't think about what we're doing wrong when we know you'll still be there. We don't reflect deeply when you're still checking in, still forgiving, still fighting to keep something alive that we're not even watering. But when you detach, when you stop reaching out, stop reacting, stop participating in a cycle that isn't serving you, it's like a mirror gets held up. A mirror that says, here's what you lost. Here's what you pushed away. A woman who detaches doesn't do it to manipulate. She does it because she's done, and not in a bitter, angry way. No, this is a different kind of done. It's peaceful. It's still. It's when she realizes that her love isn't a tool to fix someone else's lack, that no matter how much she gives, it'll never be enough for someone who doesn't value it. So she lets go, not because she stopped loving, but because she started loving herself more. You want to know what draws a man back faster than anything? It's when the energy he took for granted disappears, when the messages stop, when the emotional support is no longer available, when her world stops revolving around him and she starts living for herself. And here's the part men don't always talk about. We notice when your light is no longer shining in our direction. We feel the void. We might pretend like we don't care, but deep down, we know. We fumbled something good. You don't have a son itching to. A man is extremely attracted to a woman who's not trying to convince him to stay. There's something about that confidence, that self-respect, that unbothered grace that makes her unforgettable. Because most women, they stay too long, they argue, they cry, they beg, but when she doesn't do any of that, when she just lets you go without a scene, that hits different. That makes you pause. That makes you wonder what changed. And the answer is simple. She changed. Now, this doesn't mean detachment is easy. It takes strength to stop fighting for someone you love. It takes clarity to walk away from something you once hoped would work. But when a woman finally understands that her value isn't tied to how much she tolerates, she becomes powerful. And that power, that inner peace, that's what men are drawn to. Not the loud, dramatic exit, but the quiet shift where she stops showing up for someone who never truly saw her. A lot of men are used to emotional access. They're used to women pouring into them, even when they're not pouring anything back. So when that access is cut off, it feels like a shock. And that shock leads to reflection, because a man starts to ask himself why she stopped, why she's not answering like she used to, why she seems so calm. And in that space of wondering, the truth begins to hit. She detached because she had to, because holding on started to hurt more than letting go. It's not about games. It's not about being distant to spark attraction. It's about peace. A woman who detaches is tired of confusion, tired of mixed signals, tired of feeling like she's always trying while the other person is just coasting. So she steps back, not to be cold, but to heal, to realign with herself. And the more she does that, the more her light starts to glow again. Not for anyone else, but for her. That glow is what makes her stand out. Because now she's no longer reactive. She doesn't entertain drama. She doesn't chase after attention or affection. She creates space. She focuses on her goals, her peace, her growth, and in doing so, she becomes the kind of woman that a man can't forget. Not because she's trying to be memorable, but because she chose herself in a world that kept asking her to settle. Detachment makes her rare, and anything rare is valuable. Men chase after what they think they can't have, and when a woman detaches, she becomes that challenge, not in a game-playing kind of way, but in a self-respecting way. She's no longer emotionally available to just anyone. She's not here to be half-loved. She's not here to fix broken men or prove her worth to someone who should have seen it all along. She's simply living, and that alone draws attention. Men are wired to pursue. We don't cherish what comes too easy, even if we should. But when we feel like we're losing something real, something genuine, something rare, we start to reflect. We start to miss. We start to remember. And if we're lucky, we get a second chance. But sometimes we don't. Because the woman who detached, she's not waiting around for someone to realize her worth. She already knows it. When a woman detaches, she sends a message without saying a word. That message is, I gave you my love, my time, my effort, but I will not give you my peace. And that line, that boundary, that's what separates the girls from the women. That's what makes her powerful. That's what makes her unforgettable, because she's no longer driven by desperation. She's driven by purpose. And when you reach that level of peace, of emotional maturity, you stop chasing what isn't chasing you. You stop begging to be understood. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who aren't even listening. You don't need closure. You don't need apologies. You just walk away, you detach, and in doing so, you become the kind of woman every man thinks about long after she's gone. Men will always notice the woman who detaches, not because she's doing it to get his attention, but because she's finally done giving hers away so freely. You see, when a woman decides to pull her energy back, everything changes. She's not being spiteful. She's not being dramatic. She's simply choosing not to overextend herself anymore. She's no longer running after someone who doesn't know how to stand still and appreciate what he has. That choice, her quiet, confident detachment, is what makes her so deeply attractive to a man. The truth is, we as men get used to being poured into. We get used to having someone who checks in, who worries, who forgives, who waits for us to come around. It becomes normal to us, even expected. And when that attention disappears, when that warmth is suddenly gone, it wakes us up in a way that words never could, because now we're left with the emptiness we created. Now we have to sit with the space her energy used to fill. And it's not just the silence, it's what the silence means. And she's no longer there, that she stopped trying. The woman who detaches doesn't make a show of it. There are no dramatic exits, no long speeches. She just withdraws, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She detaches from the hope that he'll change, from the idea that if she just loves him harder, things will get better. She stops asking questions he won't answer, stops caring about responses that are too late or too empty. She lets go of the version of herself that over-explained, over-cared, over-invested. And in that letting go, she becomes lighter, she becomes freer, she becomes more powerful than ever before. This kind of woman carries a different energy. She's not cold, but she's clear.